This is محمد حمودة speaking. Today we are going to continue talking about the translation of proper names, titles, geographical terms, political institutional terms. Actually, last lecture we have talked about proper names, translation of proper names, and translation of titles. Today we are going to continue the rest of this chapter, and but before that I want to revise what we have taken. First of all, proper names is the names, or proper names are the names of persons or the names of people. These names constitute a real problem in translation, and we can use different strategies to overcome these problems and to render proper names. The first strategy is transcription, and we said that transcription is the adaptation of English pronunciation using Arabic vocabulary or using Arabic alphabets. So we write or we transliterate the English pronunciation of the word using Arabic alphabets, such as Kim or Lucy, and we transliterate it as Lucy, Lam, Waw, Sin, Ya, Lucy. Okay, the English pronunciation is Lucy, the Arabic transcription is Lucy. Philip, also the same, and so on. Okay, now G sound can be translated as kaf, ghin, or jim, such as green ممكن transliterate it as green أو green. England we translate it as Ingiltra, or Inkiltra. إما كاف أو جيم. Geography الجا sound, the second G is translated as geographia as jim, as ghin. Okay, so G sound can be translated either ghin, jim, or kaf. أما ال P sound it is the same. بنترجمها B. P مش موجودة في اللغة العربية. It does not exist in Arabic, but we transliterate it as B, H, uh, as sheen or H, V as if or V, and so on. T أيضا ممكن نترجمه إما كتي أو كطا، زي أنتوني بنترجمها أنطوني. أنطوني هنا T is translated as ta sound. Antalyo is T is translated as ta sound, is the same. Okay. Also, we talked or we said that some uh, some alphabets or some sounds are not pronounced in the original name, and when we translate it, when we translate the name, we only translate what we have pronounced only, but the silent letters are not translated. Okay. Also, diminutive names, we said that we translate the diminutive and reduced form of the diminutive name, not the original full name. Okay, we have talked about all of these issues. Also, transcription or naturalization is the second strategy. Here, we said that naturalization means the adaptation of English alphabets using Arabic, or the adaptation of English pronunciation using Arabic alphabets, but with some modifications to make the noun more acceptable in Arabic. Okay, while transliteration means translating the same adaptation of the English pronunciation without any modification. What we pronounce is what we write, the same without any modification. Also, the difference between them, naturalization may include some sort of modifications and slight changes either at the grammatical level or at the alphabetical level, while transcription refers to the or while transcription does not involve any kind of change. Okay, we have talked about all of these issues, naturalization, and we said that some proper names or some names names of famous people such as poets, scientists, philosophers, leaders, mathematical heroes, and so on, or presidents also, they are naturalized. Okay, so when we say Plato is Aflaton because because he is a famous philosopher. Aristotle also the same we, is translated is naturalized as Aristo because he is a famous Greek philosopher, and we notice that T is replaced with Ta. Aristo, Aristotle, Aristo. Okay. The same is with Arabic nouns. For example, Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi is naturalized as Salahuddin. As you see, we have some sort of similarities between the source text and the target text words, such as Salahuddin and Salahuddin. But as we notice, there is a slight difference between them. They share a lot in common, but the differences are so slight. قليلة جدا أو بسيطة. Okay, now reaching the translation of titles, and we said the first strategy is transcription. Some titles are uh, cultural or some titles hold cultural connotations or cultural values, and these cultural values or these titles do not have equivalent titles in Arabic. So, the best way to keep the cultural value of these titles is to transcribe them, such as Iral is translated as Iral, Lord is translated as Lord, Prof translated as professor or prof. Okay, but for example إيرال is لما نترجمها إيرال يعني it is something strange for the Arabic people or for the Arabs, so we can between brackets write some sort of or simple explanation and clarification of this name, such as era or this title. إيرال بين قوسين ممكن نكتب لقب أرستقراطي رفيع، وبالتالي between this is an explanation to clarify the nature of the title, what is meant by the title. Okay, naturalization is the second strategy, and we said that Duke, Doc, Duchess, Doqa. Duke is alphabetically changed, includes an alphabetical change, while Duchess includes alphabetical change and grammatical change, and we said that grammatical change is reflected by the change of ESS into تا مربوطة as a feminine reference. Okay, and the third strategy is translation when we have an equivalent item of the title, thus we use the equivalent title to reflect the meaning, such as princess. It has an equivalent item which is Amir, Madam, and we have discussed all of these issues. Okay, Now let us continue in this. Okay, the names of some people or the titles of some people: the prime minister رئيس الوزراء, the mayor اللي هو المحافظ, the minister الوزير, the earl, and so on. We have talked about them. Now reaching these Christian religious titles. Actually, some titles are religious based, or they hold a religious connotation, and they reflect a religious status. So in our translation we should reflect this cultural or this religious value of the title, such as His Holiness the Pope, اللي هو البابا طبعا. His Holiness هنا it holds a religious, it is a religious status, the Pope religious status, so we should reflect this religious value and this religious connotation. His Holiness قداسة البابا أو الحبر الأعظم. Okay. Okay. For example, the reverend, the father اللي هو الأب. the reverend, the priest اللي هو القس أو الخوري اللي احنا بنسميه. طيب احنا in Arabic sheikh in Arabic is used for different purposes. The first purpose is to refer to a person, to a religious person. الشيخ الجليل أو الشيخ طبعا هو إمام المسجد، بيكون شيخ أو إنسان تقي وورع، فهنا أول استخدام إلها for a religious connotation or for a religious status, referring to a religious status. The second one is for someone who is old، يعني رجل كبير في السن دائما بنسميه شيخ، ممكن نستخدمه لشيخ، وبالتالي الشيخ هنا ممكن يكون religious connotation اللي هو إمام أو شيخ إنسان تقي، وممكن تكون social status يعني من ناحية اجتماعية لرجل كبير في السن. أوكي. شيخ can be transliterated to hold or to reflect or to maintain its religious value, or it can be rendered as His Grace or His Holiness or His Eminence. Okay. طيب. Dear Sir in Arabic, it has no title. Sir has no title in Arabic, but we have a corresponding item or a corresponding expression for dear Sir. عزيزي السيد فلان، ونكتب اسمه، أو عزيزي فلان نكتب طبعا اسمه. أوكي. طيب يعني we have some, or we should take into consideration three main points. The first one, الشيخ is used for all Muslim scholars. جميع العلماء المسلمين بشكل عام بنشير لهم بلقب الشيخ. ولكن نجي للكينج الملك أو الكوين، من ترجمها باللغة العربية جلالة الملك عبد الله الثاني، جلالة الملكة أميرة اللي هي جلالة الملكة رانيا العبد الله and so on. So اللي هو الجلالة فقط للملك، للكينج والكوين. أما سمو it is for prince or duke، يعني سمو الأمير حسين بن عبد الله. Okay, so سمو is for princess, prince or princess. أما حضرة or سيادة for the judge للقاضي، حضرة القاضي أو سيادة القاضي. وأيضا سيادة بنستخدمها for leaders, diplomats, politicians, judges and so on. So we can't say سمو الملك آه، سمو الملك آه، عبد الله بن الحسين. Okay, no, it is wrong. Why? Because king is جلالة. جلالة is for king only or queen, not for a prince or duke or other things. Okay. Ab in all Christian religious titles can be used. يعني قداسة البابا، الأب، قداسة البابا، قداسة اللي هو القس، أنا الأب القس and so البابا is used for all religious اللي هو Christian scholars, while الشيخ is used for all Arabic religious scholars, okay, or Muslim religious scholars. Now, reaching the geographical terms. The first one is geographical terms, the names of countries. Actually, names of countries can be trans- transcribed or naturalized or translated. The first one, transcription. Some names of the countries are transcribed as they are pronounced in English, such as Brazil, Al-Brazil, Pakistan, Canada, without any difference between the source language or between the English name and the Arabic name. Mali, as it is Denmark, as it is without any difference, while other terms are naturalized involving some sort of slight changes, such as Mexico, El Mexique, or is not rendered Mexico, El Mexique. We have a lot of similarities and slight differences only. Okay, Italy, Italia, France, France. As you see, Britain, Britannia. As you see, we have slight differences between the English and Arabic names. Now, translation. Actually, some terms are transliterated, or some names of the countries are transliterated when we have equivalent names in Arabic. So, translation is used when we have equivalent terms in Arabic, such as the United Kingdom, المملكة المتحدة. في اللغة العربية عندنا equivalent term اللي هو المملكة المتحدة. So it is not transliterated or naturalized, but the best way to render the United Kingdom is to transliterate and use the Arabic equivalent item, which is المملكة المتحدة. Okay, the United States of America, USA, الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية. The same. South Africa اللي هي أفريقيا الجنوبية or جنوب أفريقيا. Okay, the Central Republic of Africa, جمهورية أفريقيا الوسطى. طيب نجي the fourth strategy, which is transcriptions and translations, such as Great Britain, بريطانيا العظمى. As you see, Britain is transliterated as Britannia, and green is or great is translated as Al-Uzma. Okay, or is translated while Britain is transcribed as Britannia. Okay. Two, cities, the name of the cities. Most of the city names are transcribed, so the majority of city names are transcribed, such as London, New York, Paris, Berlin. and so on, Havana, and so on. Some of them are naturalized, such as Washington. Washington. T is rendered as the. Peking, 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 Toledo, طريطلة, and so on. طيب. A very limited number of cities are translated because we have equivalent items in Arabic, such as Jerusalem, Al-Quds, Cairo, Al-Qahira, and so on. Okay. Now, seas and oceans. Most of them are transliterated, but some of them are transcribed. But the dominant translation strategy that is used in sea and ocean, in rendering seas and oceans, is translation. So if I ask you in the exam, the dominant strategy used in rendering the names of seas and oceans is translation, naturalization, transcription, dominance or أي استراتيجية مثلا contextual equivalence or dynamic equivalence. احنا حنختار translate or translation. Okay, seas and oceans translation, such as the Black Sea البحر الأسود, Red Sea البحر الميت, the Mediterranean Sea البحر المتوسط, the North Sea البحر الشمال, بحر الشمال أو بحر الشمال, the China Sea بحر الصين, and so on. The Pacific Ocean المحيط الهادئ أو المحيط الباسيفيكي, Atlantic Ocean اللي هو المحيط الأطلسي أو المحيط الأطلنطي, and so on. طيب بنلاحظ إنه كاريبي and المحيط الباسيفيكي are established translations but it is better to render them as الهادئ, المحيط الهادئ, better than الباسيفيكي. Okay. Now, political institutional terms. The first of all is parliaments. Then the parliamental terms either transcribed or translated or both. Sometimes can be translated or transcribed the same, such as the US Congress, مجلس النواب الأمريكي, وممكن هذا translation ولكن ممكن نعمل له transcription ونكتب الكونغرس الأمريكي, صح ولا لا؟ وبالتالي Congress is rendered as Congress as it is transcribed, or can rendered as مجلس النواب الأمريكي. Okay. the US Senate مجلس الشيوخ أو مجلس الأعيان. the House of Lords اللي هو مجلس اللوردات أو الأعيان البريطاني. Okay. the National Assembly اللي هو مجلس الأمة أو المجلس الوطني. the People's Assembly مجلس الشعب. So as we notice, we have People's Assembly مجلس الشعب. It is translation. It is translated. Okay. The second are ministries. Ministries, most of them are translated because they have equivalent items in Arabic. The first one is Finance Ministry, وزارة المالية. Defense Ministry, وزارة الدفاع. Foreign Ministry, وزارة الخارجية. Health Ministry, وزارة الصحة. Energy Ministry, وزارة الطاقة. Ministry of Interior or Interior Ministry, وزارة الداخلية. All of these ministries have equivalent terms in Arabic, but we have some difference. The first one, or we have special cases. The first one اللي هي foreign ministry وزارة الخارجية. في أمريكا بنحكيها secretary of state، ما بنحكي foreign ministry، بنحكي secretary of state. So بنقول the secretary of state minister says 1 2 3 4. اوكي. الحاجة الثانية، أما وزارة الخارجية البريطانية أو وزير الخارجية البريطاني بنحكي foreign secretary. أوكي. سو البريطاني بنحكي foreign secretary، أما الأمريكي بنحكي secretary of state. أوكي. the same interior ministry وزارة الداخلية. بريطانيا بنحكيها home secretary. home secretary. And so on. You can look at the rest of examples. Now, reaching to buildings, المباني. Most of these buildings are either transcribed or translated, such as the Pentagon, البنتاغون. It is transcribed, but it is unknown, so we can, between brackets, we can introduce some or simple explanations of this term. البنتاغون نترجمها البنتاجون أو البنتاغون، و between brackets مقر وزارة الدفاع الأمريكية. أوكي. داونينج ستريت نحكيها داونينج ستريت وبين قوسين مقر رئيس وزراء بريطانيا أو مقر رئاسة الوزراء البريطانية. الإليزية اللي هي قصر الإليزية مقر رئيس فرنسا أو مقر الرئاسة الفرنسية. أوكي. The same is with streets. Non-political names of streets such as Wall Street نترجمها وول ستريت وبين قوسين شارع المال الأمريكي، أو فليت ستريت نترجمها فليت ستريت وبين قوسين شارع الصحافة البريطاني أو شارع الصحافة في لندن. أوكي. Actually, this is the end of this lecture. I hope you get a lot of benefits in this lecture. To remind you or to summarize what we have talked about is the translation of proper names, the translation of titles, the translation of geographical places, and the translation of. Okay. Regarding the geographical places, we said that most of the countries are either transcribed, naturalized, or translated. Such as Brazil is transcribed, naturalized, such as England, while translation or translated when we have equivalent terms such as United Kingdom اللي هي المملكة المتحدة. Others can be transcriptions, transcribed and translated at the same time, such as Great Britain, Britannia العظمى. Names of the cities, most of them are transcribed. So the dominant strategy in rendering city names or the names of cities is transcription. Okay, such as New York, Paris, and so on. Some of them are naturalized, but the dominant strategy is transcription. Some of them, or a limited number of city names, are translated because we have equivalent items, such as Jerusalem is translated as بيت المقدس or القدس. C names قلنا معظمهم transcribed, معظمهم translated, but some of them are transcribed as we see. Also the political institutional names قلنا ممكن يكونوا البارلمنتس either transcribed, translated or both transcribed and translated, and we give several examples of this. Ministers or ministries, most of them are translated because we have equivalent terms in Arabic, but we have foreign secretary for England, or so we have some terms or some items for specific uses such as foreign secretary وزارة الخارجية البريطانية و secretary of state وزير الخارجية الأمريكي home secretary اللي هو وزير الداخلية and so on. buildings قلنا أغلبهم transcribed وبين قوسين بعملهم translation. يعني زي كرملين بكتب الكرملين وبين قوسين مقر الرئاسة الروسية أو مقر القيادة السوفيتية and so on. Okay, that's the end of our lecture. Thank you very much, and I hope you get a lot of benefits.